Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session, Going Beyond the Land Acknowledgement and How to Form a Deep Connection to Land and Urban Environment. My name is Boyan Mandarich. My pronouns are he, him, and I am a co-founder and executive director of November Project. I would like to begin this conversation by acknowledging the Indigenous people of all the lands that we're on today. While we meet on the virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we all call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationship between nations and to improve our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how can we, in our unique ways, move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Before I turn the attention to our special guests, I would like to remind everyone of 6 November Project community agreements and ask everyone to adhere to them during the conversation. First one is come as you are. Second one, elevate, motivate, support others. Third, grow community. Fourth, lead together. Fifth is respect individual boundaries, our identities, our neighbors, our environment, and understand that any agenda that is distracting from the topics we're discussing today will not be entertained. And finally, during the conversations, let's call each other in rather than call each other out. I will be sharing the link to these shortly. But while the audience of the meeting will not be able to participate in the conversations, you'll be able to use the chat feature for questions during the Q&A portion of the session. Please understand that with hundreds in attendance, we may not be able to get to all the questions. Now I would like to pass on mic to our special guests, Jamie Volz and Elder Dr. Dave Courchene. Jamie is a longtime member of November Project and has been instrumental in helping make this conversation happen. Jamie, can you please introduce our guest of honor?
Thank you, Boyan, for the welcome and hosting us this evening. And thank you to Rebecca Skinner, co-leader of November Project Ottawa, for initiating this request. Good evening, everyone. Buju anin, dinemaganiduk, inatishin mayangan indigenicos, mayangan dodem, Wellandunji. My name is Jamie Volz. I am Anishinaabe through my father and Ukrainian and Irish through my mom. I am a helper at the Turtle Lodge and blessed to have this opportunity and honor to work with Elder Dr. Dave Courchene and the other wonderful knowledge keepers at the Lodge. I'm also a proud member of the November Project community, where I've attended NP Ottawa workouts since 2017. It's very exciting that 2 communities so close to my heart, Turtle Lodge and November Project, have come together this evening as we listen to the message from Elder Dave on how we can form a deeper connection to this land that we live and move on. Having said that, I would like to introduce Elder Dr. Dave Courchene, Nigani Aki Nene, leading Earthman, a respected elder and knowledge keeper of the Anishinaabe Nation, who has devoted his life to sharing Indigenous knowledge, carrying a message of hope, peace, and environmental stewardship. From lighting the sacred fire at the United Nations Earth Summit in 1992, to sharing the stage with spiritual leaders, including the Dalai Lama, Elder Dr. Courchene's leadership has had a global influence. In 2002, he founded the Turtle Lodge International Center for Indigenous Education and Wellness, a sacred lodge recognized internationally and by Indigenous knowledge keepers, as well as the Assembly of First Nations and the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, as one of the most important gathering places for Indigenous peoples in Canada. Elder Dr. Courchene is the chair of the National Turtle Lodge Council of Knowledge Keepers. Kinanakumin, thank you, Elder Dave, for being with us this evening and sharing the ancient teachings and knowledge of your Anishinaabe ancestors, which can guide us to creating a better world for our children and the next generations.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Bojo anin dinemaganituk. Igani aki inene digo. Kinyo dotem saging donji Anishinaabe and thou. First of all, let me say thank you for this opportunity to share what I feel is our collective responsibility in taking better care of Mother Earth. I'm sure we have the same concerns of the harm we are doing to the environment that has led us into this crisis of accelerated climate breakdown. I was impressed to hear about your movement of physical fitness. One of the important elements of our nature as human beings is to be physically healthy. I was impressed with the foundation of your values as a movement, the values of diversity, inclusion, dignity, respect, and kindness. I am in full support of these values, which are common to our people. As much as we have put effort into physical health, we need to consider how we can stay healthy in such an unhealthy world. We are surrounded by imbalance. 3/4 of the earth is water, and our waters are so full of pollution. The air is contaminated. The people struggle with mental health. Violence has been normalized in so many aspects of our life. Nature always operates on the principle of balance. The four root elements of life are earth, air, water, and fire that all living beings are connected with. These roots of life are our source of life. They are what gives us life. And these four roots of life must work in balance if we are to have balance as human beings. There are also four elements to our nature as human beings: spirit, the emotions, the body, and the mind. These also have to be in balance. You cannot have one without the other to achieve balance in life. In life, we are surrounded by an energy. This energy is a spirit that runs through the elements of life: earth, air, water, and fire. Every living entity has a spirit, a shining blue light inside. A tree has a spirit. And within the spirit of the tree, that blue light that defines the type of tree it will become with its unique purpose as a particular tree. And so it is for us as human beings. It is in this shining blue light that defines our individual identity and how to be a human being, complete with original instructions embedded in our DNA. We are living in a time of great change and also great opportunity for us as human beings to create community. What we are witnessing today threatens the future. We live in a world that is so divided and so violent. We have developed, we have devolved to a level where we no longer see each other as relatives, as brothers and sisters. The current global challenge of accelerated climate breakdown will require human change. It will require a change of heart and a spirit that will unite us as humanity. As humanity, we were all born with what is referred to as original instructions on how to live and behave as human beings. They are values we have followed as a people that act as the foundation of living a good and kind life. Our people have referred to these values as the spiritual and natural laws that are inherent in nature and universal to all living beings. Nature's laws are self-enforcing for the good of all life, for the good of creation. Nature's law dictates that all change begins with one individual having a clear vision and implementing it. This vision or dream must be inspired by the Spirit, grounded in these universal sacred values, and come from the heart. This vision becomes the seed, and from that one person, it can grow into a collective for humankind to have a collective capacity to work together, taking care of the earth. The vision should define a path that leads to the world we want to see. The world I envision is based on spirit, on peace, honoring diversity in our collective. It is a vision of inclusion, not exclusion. A world where we return all children to the center of our lives. We have to support the young people to experience the land by feeling the land. We have to come to terms with understanding our place in nature. We need to fully understand that the earth is a living entity. We see that when we are on the land, your senses are heightened. The gift of eyesight sees the beauty of nature, and it stays in your heart forever. You never forget. You smell the land again, a sweet smell that never leaves you. You hear the songs of the birds singing in celebration of the beauty that is all of creation. You feel the soft breeze touch your skin, the first sign your ancestors are close by. The world is in need of a new thought, a new plan, a new vision, and it begins by returning to the spirit and the land. There is no greater way to show appreciation and gratitude to the Great Spirit than by loving the land and returning the love the land is giving to us. The cure for all our symptoms is reconnecting to the land. We must take the youth to the land to find their identity and to learn the ancestral ways of stewardship based on these inclusive values, the spiritual and natural laws. It's not just about going to the land, it's about rekindling our spiritual relationship with the land. Going to the land rekindles the spiritual part of our nature and our true identity as humanity. For us, ceremony is about thanking the spirit and the land and creating sacred relationship. Before we go to the land to engage with and receive from the land, we always do a ceremony of gratitude. Showing gratitude is a key act that softens the heart, reignites our spirit, and makes us kind and humble. This is where I call on the November Project to join us. Align with us as Indigenous people as we pray before going out on the land, lifting our sacred pipes in ceremony, or placing tobacco upon the land to give thanks to Mother Earth. Help us by incorporating a personal act of gratitude to acknowledge the spirit of the land before you begin your runs and workouts, to share what you appreciate and love about the land. We need to embrace our sacred duty and responsibility to always center our children and take them to the land. We need to support the children with the maximum of love and kindness and allow them to experience and feel the land, which will help them discover their identity. Our elders say it is the journey to the heart that will take us into the future. The vision quest has for thousands of years been the rite of passage to manhood for young Indigenous boys. Boys become men by being initiated by a woman in a process beginning with their own mothers and their grandmothers. And then at the age of puberty, going to the land, to Mother Earth, the first woman, the first mother, and the source of life for us all. There they reach out in humbleness to the Great Spirit, the highest power of all, to bring them a vision or a dream that will bring meaning and purpose to their lives as men. The rite of passage is taught to the young boy. No one could find his life for him but himself. Most of the questions we have in life cannot be answered until we have earned the right to receive the answer. There is a protocol to be followed in that quest. In nature's law, there's nothing that is free. Everything must be earned. Today we struggle to have a global vision to guide us past our current global crisis. No matter how huge the problem, it still must begin with a single person making a serious effort to put some sacrifice, showing their faith in the Spirit. The Spirit will provide dreams, inspiration, and guidance when the heart of an individual is open. Young women reaching puberty also have their rites of passage, best explained by the grandmothers. They too connect with Mother Earth in ceremonial ways, coming into the sacred lodges to learn the teachings and protocols of their sacred role as women, the life givers and water carriers of our nations. The women of our nations have always had the closest relationship to Mother Earth. They are the human embodiment of Mother Earth herself. No human being can ever tell another what their identity should be. Each person needs to make that journey to the land to feel their own spirit and to find their own identity. Only once that journey has been made will one love themselves as they are. Each of us has a beautiful gift. We are not the same, and that uniqueness within the human family is there to create a better world. The ones that will bring real change that we are in need of will be the people of the heart. These are the people who can hold and grow the seed of this vision. The heart is the center of the world we need, a world filled with love and kindness. And this can only happen in living, honoring the spirit of one's heart. The closer we connect to nature, the better chance we will have in feeling that part of our nature that we call the spirit. She is a reflection of true beauty with a spirit expressing love and kindness. Being in nature brings us peace and makes us kind and humble. For those who run on Mother Earth, they experience a second wind What that second wind really is catching the natural rhythm of the earth that can carry you. Traditionally, our runners ran to carry a message. When you run on Mother Earth, consider the message you are carrying. It is my hope here today that we can join in solidarity, carrying a message. We are challenged to become a voice of spirit and a voice of the land. Join us as Indigenous people to walk with us, speaking out for the land and speaking out for all children. As a people that have been placed in this part of the world, we have evolved, loving the land, walking with the spirit of our ancestors. As a people, we have survived some really dark times and still face many challenges that keep us marginalized. Our world today is filled with stereotypes that contribute to experiences of marginalization, invisibility, and oppression for the First Peoples. Systemic racism is an issue that affects all our communities, and we need to break the cycle of violence. In order to write a new story, we have to acknowledge the ugly past that brought us here. In spite of these challenges, we have remained committed to a more peaceful world. We have come to the realization that only the forces of nature itself will bring balance into our world that is so badly needed. Knowing this, we must prepare ourselves for the coming changes that are inevitable. Nature, through our forces, will encourage us to return, to become spiritual beings living in this physical world. Once we have achieved that, the forces of the universe will be in total support of those living from the spirit of the heart. One draws these forces of nature, this alliance with nature, through living the spirit of sacred values. Nature rewards those who are kind. Together, we can develop a campaign educating the world to prepare for these changes. No one can offer a definitive answer as to how we will survive into the future. All the elders of our nations tell us that we need to return to the beginning of our humanness, to seek guidance and balance from the spirit in nature. Together, we can carry and share a message that is grounded in the values of kindness. There is a natural law our elders called the law of the circle. It could also be called the law of cause and effect. Essentially, whatever we put into our circle returns to us multiplied. Translated into lived experience, if you make the right decisions and take the right actions, you will undoubtedly achieve the success you envision for your life, whether you're directly aware of it or not. In addition to initiating and incorporating an act of gratitude into your workouts, I humbly call on November Project to join with us as Indigenous people to teach young people to become stewards of the land. We call on you to help center the children and help offer them the opportunity to experience the land. All life has a purpose in this web of life. All life is related and connected. Together, we can unite as one voice that comes from the heart to help create greater awareness of our duties and responsibilities as human beings. for those willing to change, the forces of nature will be on their side. Miigwech. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Courchene. I think this is the portion when we start taking questions from the audience. This came via email. Dr. Courchene, can you speak to designations of elder and knowledge keeper, and so we have a clear understanding and the distinctions, please?
That's always been a struggle to try to define, the knowledge keepers or the elders of our nations, especially when we try to interpret it using the English language. My feeling is that knowledge keepers and elders are really one of the same, that elders and knowledge keepers are recognized as people that have lived in ceremony of their people, ones that are able to speak their language and are able to carry out the ceremonies that the ancestors had left for us. So the elders that we depend upon, have always been ones that were in a position to guide us, and the ones that we feel of utmost importance in guiding us are the grandmothers, that they carry what they call grandmother's law, that really defines, our duties and responsibilities as human beings. Traditionally, in our nations, it was always the grandmothers that held the power of that influence with the community, to be able to guide the community and to be able to correct an individual when one had strayed off the path that was defined by the elders or the knowledge keepers. So I would say that how you would get to know a true knowledge keeper, or one that has that recognition of being an elder, is the life that they have lived in their ancestral ways, and still being able to speak the language of their ancestors.
Thank you. Next question comes from Delane House. What would some examples of how to practice gratitude as we go to the land? I hear tobacco was mentioned.
I think that there are, unique ways of showing appreciation, and gratitude. And I think the most universal way that we can show gratitude is offering words of gratitude. There's a word that we say in our language, to our great creator, or to Mother Earth, Kinanakomin. And it's very, very difficult to translate that into English, because it's a feeling of so much appreciation that comes from the heart for what you receive from life, what you receive from the land, all the blessings and the gifts that we receive on a daily basis. And we're encouraged from the moment that we open our eyes in the morning, that the first thought should be of offering those words of gratitude and saying thank you for allowing me again to see the morning sun. And then you could, during the day, you make a practice of offering those words of gratitude just by saying thank you. There are other ways that, that people in our culture have offered a symbol of that gratitude. Of course, tobacco was universal to many First Nations peoples. That tobacco was a gift, was a symbol of giving. When you offer tobacco to an elder, it is understood that you want to receive something from the elder. And the elder recognizes that tobacco is carrying out his responsibility in fulfilling the sacredness of that tobacco, but trying to meet the wishes of that individual that is offered a gift. There's also food that we make as an offering on the land. Sometimes when whatever meal that we're offering, we put a bit on the side and take it out to the land. And really it's to feed, to return that love of the land by offering something to the spirit of Mother Earth, or the spirit that we're surrounded by. Because in our world as Indigenous people, we have a spiritual reality that we live with in our daily lives, that we are surrounded by this energy that we call spirit. And many of our people refer to that, to the spirit as our ancestors that had lived and walked on this land for many, many, many thousands of years, that are still within our reach to be able to give us dreams and to be able to give us guidance. So making those offerings is very, very important in order to receive what we are receiving from the spirit, and also what we are receiving from the land, because the land offers everything we need in order to live and to survive: the food, the water, the medicines, and the teachings. So there's much to show gratitude for in our daily lives.
Thank you. This question came from a variety of from a few different folks, and he goes, many of us live in urban environments. Do you have suggestions for how to connect with nature and place while living in more urban environments?
My recommendation would be that, if one wants to learn, there has to be effort and showing some commitment toward, what you are hoping or wishing for. And I know that question has come up many, many times, particularly that the majority of the population is in the urban centers. But there's still land around, there's still rivers around, there's still lakes around us. And what it takes is an effort and a commitment by an individual really wanting to feel the land. I know in most of the cities that I've been in, I always look for a park so I can go and be near some trees or be near some water, because I recognize the challenges. But you know that the other thing we forget is that our feet is walking on the land. Granted, it's covered with concrete, but the energy of the earth can still be felt just by walking, running, however that we feel that we're open to receive, the energies from the land. And not only is the land, a part of nature, but so is the sun, the moon, the stars is all part of nature. And there's nothing more beautiful at nighttime to look into the sky and see the beauty of the night stars, and to see like a falling star, and to see a full moon and the feelings that a full moon can give you, because it has power. And especially the sun that we see, are able to see with our own eyes. And in our belief system, the sun is the clearest physical symbol that we can see with our eyes, that there's a great spirit, a great mystery. And it is understood in our lodges that we haven't got the intellectual capacity to be able to understand the fullness of the great spirit. So much of it remains the great mystery. The best that we can do as human beings is to recognize that there is this spirit that we call the great creator. Is we feel that spirit, we feel that energy. And that is exactly what Mother Earth carries too, is that energy of love. And all it takes is that effort. I'm sure a lot of people have some way of transportation, to find a place where they can go and sit under a tree or sit on a rock. There's many places yet. We're very lucky here in this part of the world, that there's so much nature around us. All that is required is to take some offering with you to the land and allow yourself to be open to feel that spirit. And what you're going to feel from the land is really the love of the land itself. That is why it's so important for our people that we will never know love until we feel the expression of the fullness of the love of the earth, that we've all been created from. And our duty and responsibility is to return that love to the land by taking care of it, taking care of the land and treating all creation with sacredness. To us, nature has a voice. Everything in nature has a teaching. If you're open to communicate with nature, you can hear that tree talking. If you're open to be able to hear that voice of nature itself. Because all living entity has the power to be able to share teachings and knowledge. All it takes is that effort from each of us to be able to take the time and to try to clear our minds from all that has stopped us from feeling that spirit that is very much on the land.
Thank you. This question comes from Rochelle Hitchner. Our school would like someone to approve our school land acknowledgement. Do you have any guidance on how to assure this is honored and done properly?
The things we're finding, that there's a lot of initiatives that are being done right now that have been referred to as land-based learning. And I think that what I would suggest is that, you need to find Indigenous people, first of all, that have the knowledge of the protocols of developing relationship with the land. And we have people right across this country, I know that still carry that responsibility and that knowledge. But I would suggest, to people that are interested in really developing those kind of initiatives in the education system, is offer a gift to an elder somewhere near you. Look around for them, you'll find them. But again, it takes effort. Maybe talk to other Indigenous people that could guide you to people that would help you to develop something in the school. It's not just the sake of taking the young people on the land. It's much, much more than that. Because in our understanding of, taking our children to the land, it's about rekindling that spirit within each of us. It's a spiritual exercise as much as it's a physical connection that we make with the land. So I really do, encourage those that are interested in developing those kind of initiatives, to find those individuals. And I know they're out there. I've traveled across this country, and I know that there's people that have accepted and carried out that same faith and responsibility to sharing those teachings. I know that here at the Turtle Lodge, we're just embarking on a lot of initiatives right now, trying to create more opportunities, for young people to learn more about Indigenous people, to learn more about that relationship that we have always had, not only with the land, but with all peoples. Our people have always been recognized as a giving people. We've always been willing to share whatever we have, and that hasn't changed, within the spirit of our people, is that whatever we have, it is meant to be shared, because it's taught to us that nothing belongs to us. Even the gifts that we hold that are unique belong to the people. And the gifts that we hold are to be used to create a better world and to create a better community. So it's that whole essence of sharing that is very important, for us to go beyond this selfish world that we're presently living.
Thank you. Next question comes from Diane Robinson. As a non-Indigenous person, would I be appropriating an Indigenous practice if I was to use tobacco?
I would say not, because I think, again, if the individual that is using tobacco saying, that they got their understanding from an elder, and an elder would understand right away, and that to me is not, it's not appropriating when you do it out of respect, when you do it in the way that it's supposed to be done, and then we all have the same spirit of love, of life for each other, and I think we need to continue to be able to reach that level of treating each other as brothers and sisters. And it is meant for us to be able to share what each of us have. And I have no problem in sharing what we have as Indigenous people, that comes in in the knowledge that we hold, because whatever we've been blessed to receive as knowledge has come from a higher source of influence, a higher source of intelligence that we've always relied on to guide us in our life. So I would say in answer to that question, no, you would not be appropriating if you share, and do it in a way that I shared it with you today, that it came from someone like myself, that has a responsibility of sharing those understandings.
Next question comes from Tim Mintuck. What is the best way to learn our language?
Well, like anything else, it's going to take effort. And everything begins with something small that leads to great steps. One of the ways I found that language is a little easier to pick up is if you learn it from ceremony. You learn the names of your direction, in the language, and you learn it through the ceremonies of our people, that you acknowledge the spirit that is being invoked within the ceremony. And again, you find someone that is able to speak the language, and you take them out onto the land and ask that person, how do you say tree? What kind of tree is this? What kind of bug is this? That's how you're going to learn the language. Effort, and a lot of effort. I've been told by some of our linguists, that if you put a serious effort in wanting to be fluent in the language, it'll probably take you about 5 years of effort and wanting to learn. My grandfather used to tell me, boy, try and learn one word a day, one new word a day. I've made that practice in my life. I always love hearing a different word, so I can look it up, Google it, wondering what that word means, and I learn from it. There's always something to learn, so if we can develop this attitude, try to learn one word of the language you want to learn. Eventually you're going to pick it up. Because it's already embedded in us. The language is embedded in us. All we have to do is try to regain that memory of that language. And it's usually being around people that speak the language. And it sounds beautiful when you're around people that are speaking the language. It's very poetic. It's like music. It sounds good because it's a spiritual language. It's a beautiful language.
Thank you. The next question comes from Ken Brown. Can you say a few words about when we may return to sweat lodges and ceremonies in these COVID times?
What we're doing in this area here, we're advised by the elders, that we do not overstep the spirit in making any kind of decision that we need to be making in our lives. And the old people say, when you go back to the beginning, you're going back to ceremony, you're going back to the spirit. And I know that there's been a lot of concern with the ceremonies, that have not been carried out because of the COVID virus that is around us right now. And the answer to that is, if an individual seeks that answer, they have to go to ceremony, and they have to ask the spirit themselves for that guidance, because we have no right to tell someone what to do. That responsibility is in each of us. Like I've delayed our ceremonies in this area because I went into ceremony, and I've been asked, to delay, to hold things off until things calm down. For example, we had to delay the Sundance last year, and the people were really disappointed. And I said, don't worry, the sun will never leave us. We just have to stop dancing this year. It'll always be there. The ceremonies will always be there. And there's always ways, that we can live in ceremony. Showing gratitude is ceremony. Offering a prayer is ceremony. Being kind is ceremony. Like living life should be a ceremony of kindness. So that, I think, is what should be in the forefront. And yes, these ceremonies are very important, but they're there, and I know we'll get back to them again soon.
Thank you. The next question comes from Rebecca Fernandez. You're sharing about how everything is in balance resonated with me. Could you speak more to how spirit is balanced by mind, body, and feelings? That may have been the wrong four things.
You see the first of all, we acknowledge, and that's just been acknowledged, the four elements to our nature is the spirit, the emotions, the body, and the mind. And in order to have that balance, we have to be able to nurture those four elements that nurture who we are as human beings. And spirit is the first one that we've always been advised by the elders, that the most important element of our nature, they say, is the spirit, because the spirit is what defines our identity. Spirit is what defines creation. Spirit defines the gifts that give us character. Now, when we come to the emotional part, we live in a world today, there's so much loneliness, there's so much depression, there's so much sadness. And when we talk about emotions, we have to talk about the heart. It's the heart that is a symbol of those emotions. And to show emotion, is to be an expression of love and kindness, and to always be kind. My grandmother said it so well. The most important way that you can live and act and speak is in kindness. That's to live from the heart. So the emotional aspect of our life also has an effect on our immune system. Our immune system, is strengthened by the love that we express to each other. So that has to be in balance, with the spirit. And when we talk about the physical aspect of our nature, and of course, the November Project is very well recognized for the physical fitness that is so important. But also added to that, is the challenge of the food that we're eating that is not good for us. We have contaminated, the food chain to the extent that we don't even fully realize, the diseases that are coming from a lot of these contaminants, that have been put into our food chain. And that is why, in our world, we're told, to try to live what was natural in our area. The food that our people ate, there was not very much salt, and there certainly wasn't a lot of sugar, and there wasn't anything really contaminated, because what we lived on came from the water, came from the land. Even one of the most sacred foods of our people in this area, is the what they call the sacred rice of our people, that's in the water. And it was very much a big part of our diet as a people. So the physical aspect of it is absolutely critical, important, not only physical fitness, but it's the food. And the other thing that, that's becoming critical, and it's becoming even more critical, is the element of water that we need, because the majority of our being is water. And usually sickness will come from contaminated water. And much of the water that we see on the land today has been contaminated to some extent, by some chemicals or whatever. And, as much as they're trying to purify that water, they'll never be able to completely purify that water to the extent that it needs to be purified. And the last element is fire, or the mind. I'm sorry, the mind. The mind is the other element of our being. And the old people say, what you put into your mind is you use your eyes. You use your eyes and you fill your mind with what you see. And this is where the beauty of nature comes in. When you start to go to the land and you fill your mind with the beauty of the land that you are seeing. And the mind, is an incredibly powerful gift that has been misused, to create technologies, that have really harmed Mother Earth, and it's created so much imbalance. And in our world, the teachings that are shared, always have that foundation, to be able for the mind to receive how we should live and act as human beings. For example, the first teaching that we're reminded of is a teaching of respect that is symbolized by the buffalo. In our world long ago, the buffalo gave every part of its being so that we could survive as a people. And unfortunately, they were killed and slaughtered by the millions, which affected our lives as a people. But that buffalo gave every part of its being. To show respect and to know respect is to know how to give the way that that buffalo had given every part of its being so that we could live. And it's learning these teachings. Yeah, intellectually, we need to receive these teachings, but more important is to live those teachings. It's one thing to intellectualize things, but to be able to live them is another thing. And that is why the spirit is so important, to be balanced with your mind, your body, and your emotions. Those all have to be balanced. And again, it's in the rite of passage of our people is why we go to the land, is to try to find that balance with the spirit, with our own emotions, and our own physical discomfort. On a vision quest, we don't eat food, don't drink water. So by the time we come out of there, we know how sacred water is, because that's the first thing we want to do after a vision quest is to have water. And then we start to see, being on the land, for those times on a vision quest, you start to feel the land itself, and you become the land itself. You become a part of the land. That is why I keep reminding and hoping, our brothers and sisters would really take into account the importance of having our children feel the land. Every child was born with rights. Unfortunately, that's one right that we have not given them, the right to feel the land, and to the extent that they should feel it. Every child was born with the right to be told the truth, and we have not done that. We have not told the truth to the children. We've led them down a path that, that is leading them to more self-destruction, and we need to guide them away from that. And of course, all these elements that define our nature as human beings have to be in balance. It's not only one element of our nature that we focus on, even though, I focus a lot on spirit, because that is a part of the gift of the red man, to share the significance and importance of that part of our nature that we call the spirit, because there is a shining blue light in you. There is a shining blue light in everyone that is watching here today, that defines who you are. And your journey is to be able to reach that part of yourself, to get to know yourself, and not allow anyone else to tell you who you are, because your spirit will define who you are. And that is what will make you happy. That is what will give you joy in life, is being yourself. We were denied that as a people for a long time. Everything that represented who we were, by law, we were not allowed to speak our language. We were not allowed to practice our ceremony. And it had a real negative impact right to this point in time in our communities, where much of the memory had been lost because of the indoctrination, of another way of life. And it is only through the land that we have been able to regain our memory, that we regain that spirit inside of us. That may be just a slow burning ember, but it is rising to be a blazing fire now, with that passion that we have for life, that passion we have for the love of all human beings, that we are all brothers and sisters, and we have to join together, to create a better world for our children. Let us give them that hope that we can.
Thank you. On that note, this is our last question. There's a few more, but unfortunately, we're running out of time. This question comes from Callie Dole. Despite the challenges we face environmentally and socially, what can we do to feel more hopeful? What do you do to feel more hopeful?
The answer for me is very simple. I've always found my comfort in the challenges in life by going to the spirit. And that's what I would say and advise anyone, during your time of struggle, during your time of need, during your time of doubt and fear, turn to the spirit. It doesn't cost anything to be able to really speak to the spirit, and in the same way that the questions have been asked to me, ask those same questions to the spirit, And I guarantee that they will answer. Maybe not the way you would like them to answer, but they will answer you. And that's the law of spirit. If you acknowledge spirit, it will acknowledge you. It will respond to you in one way or the other. Maybe not now, but maybe later, but surely it will respond to whatever question or doubt that you may have in your life.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I'm sharing the link to the Turtle Lodge donations page. Please, if you can, donate. Donations will go towards supporting the capital facility infrastructure at the lodge, to support the vision of the elders to build and establish housing for youth and elders, which would enable greater opportunities for connection to the land and rites of passage ceremonies for all young people. You can also find links to the Turtle Lodge social media channels on the website, so feel free to follow and engage in that way as well. One more time, a huge thank you to our guests. This has been a wonderful privilege and an opportunity. Thank you so much. I hope this is not the last time we do this.
Thank you very much.
Have a great night, everyone.